Detroit Historical Society presents Tales from the D. This is Tales from the D, true stories straight out of the Motor City. Detroit is known internationally for its cars, but it is also the greatest music city in the world. Tonight, we roll the streets with legendary Detroit producer Don Was. Don has worked with people like Iggy Pop and the Rolling Stones. Don came into the studio for an exclusive chat with Tales from the D. He shares some of his musical experiences and feelings about the city of Detroit. He discusses how the Motor City has influenced his career and his early days as a musician and producer. Don Was, welcome back home to Detroit, my brother.
Thank you, Tino. Thank you, man. Good to be here. Always good to be here.
Thank you, sir. What makes Detroit, in my opinion, the greatest music city in the world?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, by the way. I think it has something to do with having a one industry town, you know, that everybody's fate was tied up in the well-being of the auto business, right? So my parents were both teachers, but if the auto business was going badly, people would move away and they'd lay off teachers. No one, barbers suffered, you know, waitresses suffered.
Right.
So there was really no point in putting on a lot of airs in Detroit because everyone knew we were all in the same boat.
Yes,
and I think that creates a certain basic honesty and a certain lack of pretension that then manifests in the music of the city. It's probably best exemplified by the foundation of Detroit music, who I think is John Lee Hooker. Man.
John Lee Hooker, we agree on that.
It's raw and simple. Driving, and it tremendous energy.
Almost primitive in some ways.
Well, very primitive. Yeah. But it's just real, man. And that's real. That's what I feel about the city as a whole. The people are real and they're honest. You know, when I was a kid, I'm sure you remember this. Man. Did you ever see a limo anywhere? You know, no one bothered riding around in that. So no one rented a Rolls or leased a Bentley. There's absolutely no point in that.
All the things you've done as a musician, a producer, which I'm sure in Detroit people are well aware of Don Was and a lot of the things you do. You're producing the Rolling Stones, you're president of Blue Note Records. You've produced a lot of great records. Some of my favorites, which there's some I'd really like to ask you about that are like just records that I just adore. One of them is Jam the House by Felix and Jarvis.
Wow.
I bought that record. I walked to Northland and bought it. That's how much I loved it.
Wow.
And, you know, I know you were just trying to get a footing in as a producer at that time. And
we were hanging out at Sound Suite Studios over on Puritan in between Greenfield and Schaefer, right? And John Lewis and Mike Grace let us go in there. Jack Tan was working on it, you know, and we were just trying to learn how to make records.
Wow.
So Nat Morris was hosted the scene, and he was a DJ on WGPR, and he's a buddy of mine. And either Felix or Jarvis was his nephew. And rap music was just starting to happen. Yeah. And so he said, they rap. We should cut something on them. And I think Nat had the idea to do a rap on top of Flamethrower, Jay Giles song, right?
So awesome.
Which was an R&B hit in Detroit in the early 80s. They played it on the scene. Electrifying Mojo played it. So Louis Resto cut that track, and then Felix and Jarvis rapped on top of it. Yeah. And it became one of the first rap records to turn up on the R&B charts.
You know, I knew about The Message by Grandmaster Flash. There was a couple things I'd heard, you know, Curtis Blow and some of the early people that, you know, from New York. Yeah. But when I heard that, are you ready to throw down?
Yes, we are.
You know, I'm like, I'm walking to Northland Shopping Mall right now. I got to have that record.
That's well, it became a hit, and then the record company called us. They said, well, we want you to do a whole album. We said, a whole album of rapping? We already did it. What do you...
That's great.
We did make a whole album of it.
Another one that you did soon after, I think Was Not Was had been going now at this point, but Brick by Brick by Iggy Pop.
Yeah. Well,
I just love that record, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I've done 2 records with him, including one called Avenue B.
Right.
I think it's called Avenue B, yeah. And it's kind of a chronicle of turning 50 that he wrote. Okay. Iggy's such a great writer. I mean, to me, he's very much like John Lee Hooker in that it's simple and honest, but it's so deep, man. Everything he's writing about goes real deep, even that early Stooges stuff. Really
it has a stream of consciousness vibe to it as well, like Hooker, that he freestyles things and just goes.
It's conversational, you know. It's without artifice. He's not trying to. He's not struggling with poetry. He's just laying it out, and I think he's a great poet.
Dennis, I've read and heard that you were the very first white artist on Soul Train, the dance show. Is this true?
I was the very first white artist, and I had my whole band with me. Live band. We didn't pantomime to anything. So, and the kids heard that I was going to be on the show, and so many kids showed up that the place was so packed you couldn't move. They were over capacity just because people wanted to hear me come in there. Yeah. You know, so Soul Train, Don Cornelius was great.
When Scorpio hit and it was like all over the radio, did you tour behind the record?
I did for a while. I went out for about a year on weekends and stuff, but I was a single parent. I had 3 kids at home, so it doesn't work being on tour, and you don't make any money if you're doing it on weekends. But I played at the Philharmonic. I did McCormick Place in Chicago. I did different bars like the Cheetah in New York City. But at the end, later on, I toured every place because in 2011 I had the album out on Strut out of London. Right. So I did Seattle, I did all those places in the Northwest, and then I ended up doing down in New Orleans, the House of Blues down there, and then I ended up doing a tour from Brooklyn all the way through to Chicago, to Detroit. So I did all that, and then I did Bonnaroo, I did South by Southwest, I did the Long Beach Funk Fest, I did all that stuff.
Well, let's go take a whack at Scorpio, man.
All right.
We got the Funky D crew here, and I think we can have some fun with it, man.
We'll do it, okay.
All right,
cool.
Sounds good.
Good, all right.
I put together a crack band known as the Funky D All-Stars to back Dennis Coffey on this next jam. It's called Scorpio.
The intro is just going to do 4 times. That goes 4 times. Hit it, B. Hey! 1, 2, 3.
So after you're getting your chops together, and then you get a gig with Albert King.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well,
man?
but that was like one of those things where, because I didn't really play the blues. I was in a totally different situation.
Yeah.
It was one of the things where someone called me and said, you ever heard of Albert King? It's like, yeah. Well, he's coming to town and the saxophone player is not going to play, and he's playing at Ethel's Lounge. I was like, and I'm on the east side, and the Ethel's Lounge was right down the street on Mack Avenue. I was like, okay, well, what I have to do, So I went, and ended up, he had a great band.
Oh, yeah.
And with horns, he had a great guitar player named Daryl Darden playing. So I got into the situation.
Yeah.
It was a hilarious situation because Albert is a definite character.
Oh, yeah.
But I played the gig and it ended up great. And it was a great experience because it was the blues experience is another one. I mean, that's another whole
it's another whole thing,
life,
man.
And I learned it, and I learned it from the master because
I hear it in you, man.
He was really a master,
I saw him at Ethel's and I think Phelps, he would hit those, and was always such a big fan of Albert King, every rock guitar player there is, whether they even know it or not, is playing Albert King licks.
Right.
They may not even know they're doing it,
They
but
don't
they
know
are.
that, right. And it's funny because he used to, as soon as I got in the band, he'd act like he didn't, but we had a little relation, but he'd be, you playing that jazz stuff, that ain't nothing. That's what he'd say to me, and I go, it's like, I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
So I can play more than you with one note than you play with all those notes.
Wow.
And but I'd be listening to him, and I said,
totally.
I watched him, and it's like, you're right.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming from another spot. So
Right.
I did what guitar players do. I learned his solos. I said,
Smart.
just to see what he was doing. And I did. I mean, it was true. You could, he had a whole different, it was about the feel. It was about his feeling. And I learned it over the course of those couple of months because I was the relief. So when he's playing, he's playing, and then he go, boom.
Yeah.
And that's to the other guitar player. So the other boom would be boom to me.
To you.
So it got to the point where he'd do that, and then I'd play my solo, I was happy.
Yeah.
So then the next night, same song, same spot.
Right.
I'm ready. He look at me.
Right.
Boo, not to someone else, to the other guitar player, nothing. And I was like, why?
And that taught you something.
But I never found a rhyme or reason except for, you just want to mess with me. But it was great. I learned a lot.
Exactly.
I learned a lot for the whole tour. And finally, when I quit, I said, I don't even know what happened, but I said, okay, when I get home, I'm leaving. I'm getting off of this bus.
Right.
They were like,
right.
no, you ain't. That's like,